Okay, so for the next couple of weeks, we're going to be talking about Hitler. Um, so who was this guy? I mean, we've all heard the stories, we've all heard the different theories about Hitler himself, but let's take a kind of a look into the man himself. For those of you who are going to be doing this at home, that's who this video is pretty much geared for. If you're in class, we're going to be discussing this a little bit further. I'm just going to move this down a bit. There we go. Going to be discussing this a little bit more as well, but I want the people at home to get the benefit of the information as well. Okay. So Hitler had a very troubling childhood. His beloved mother, she died back in 1907 when he was a young man. Um, he said that he honored his father, but he loved his mother. And part of the issues that he might have had with the Jewish culture might have been the fact that his mother died from radical breast cancer treatments that were prescribed by a Jewish doctor. Um, Ironically, when Hitler took power and everything was happening, he actually signed the visas to let this Jewish doctor emigrate to the States. He tried to save his mom, but still things didn't work out. Um, so yeah, a couple of nice little pictures here. There's Hitler's mom. There's young Adolf. After World War One, Hitler was a soldier in World War One. So you can see a couple of nice pictures of him here. Always had a thing for mustaches, didn't he? I mean, those are some serious mustaches going there. Um, so he was a soldier in World War One. He was he was injured in a gas attack and had spent the last part of the war back in Germany recovering from blindness from the gas. But he didn't like the fact that the military leaders had given up. He thought that they had given up too easily, and that it really stabbed the Jew or the German people in the back. So in 1921, Hitler, he's been bouncing around from here to here, and he joined the Nazi Party. 1921, he is now the leader of the Nazi Party. These were, they were more inclined to violence in order to get their message through, and he liked that idea. He was into the more violent aspect of it than the theoretical or the talking things out aspect of politics. He wanted to get in there and, in no short terms, crack some heads in order to get things moving. November 8th and 9th, 1923, Adolf Hitler and his followers staged the Beer Hall Push, and that was in Munich. It was a failed takeover of the government of Bavaria, state in southern Germany. Hitler was 34, an age when most people, by this point, they finished school, they've got an occupation, they're living with their wife and kids, and he's a high school dropout and a failed artist. So, what is the beer hall push? It's kind of important because it really makes him a national figure. As I said, November 1923, he and his associates they concocted a plot to seize power of the Bavarian government by kidnapping Gustav von Kahr, state commissioner of Bavaria, and two other conservative politicians. His push was inspired by Italian dictator Benito Mussolini, who we will definitely be getting into as we get into the war. Um, Benito Mussolini was already a powerful figure in Italy. He was the dictator of Italy, and Hitler looked at this guy and said, "There's somebody that I could kind of get behind. I like the way that he's doing things." So he uses the way that Benito Mussolini took over Italy as a map and a guidepost to try to take over Germany. He was convicted of treason. He was sentenced to 5 years in jail. Spent less than a year there, though. While he was there, he dictated Mein Kampf, or My Struggle. It's his political autobiography, and it basically turned him into a national figure. After this, he's becoming a much more powerful individual, not just within the Nazi Party, but he's raising the stakes of the Nazi Party and bringing it more into light. By 1933, Hitler is finally, through democratic means, he's going through the system. He's elected Chancellor of Germany, and this is a picture of the Houses of Parliament of the German people. And, he takes it over through mainly democratic means. However, this was in January 30th, that he becomes the chancellor. In February, less than a couple of months later, the the Houses of Parliament in Germany burned to the ground. It's a mysterious fire. Nobody knows how it starts. Hitler, however, oh, here we go. January 30th, 1933, he's elected chancellor. Okay, something I want to get back into there, and that is there is a president and a chancellor. The president, Hindenburg, he is basically the governor general of Canada. He's a rubber stamp. The chancellor is the one who's got all the power. The president is the one who kind of rubber stamps things, saying, yes, this is a law, and kind of controls the government, controls who's going to be leader of the House, control who's going to be running the government. So the Reichstag fire, February 27th, 1933. After that, Hitler blames the Communist Party in Germany. He has the four leaders of the Communist Party arrested, thrown into jail, and says it was a plot by the communists trying to take over the government. Imposes martial law. He outlaws the Communist Party in Germany, and within a matter of minutes, he goes from becoming a minority leader of the German people to a majority leader. This means, he's got control. He can do pretty much whatever he wants at this point. So, taking a look, what's the difference between fascism and communism? Well, it's on separate ends of the spectrum. We'll take a look at that in a second. Fascism and communism are very, very different ideas. You've got, the idea behind fascism at the time, Adolf Hitler, and the idea behind communism at the time, who is Joseph Stalin. Both are going to become very important to you in the upcoming weeks in the history class. But the interesting thing is that they're both, opposite ends of the spectrum, but they both do lead dictatorships. So on the left, you see you've got communism. On the right, you got fascism. Or are you guys reversed here? I'm not sure. Okay, so on the left here, you've got communism. And you can see right here, you've got Joseph Stalin. On the far side of the right, you've got fascism. Somewhere in the middles here, that is the Canadian spectrum of things. Socialism, neutral Sweden, that type of idea. The NDP, they're definitely on the left hand of the spectrum. Liberals, kind of center. Conservatives, they're a little bit more to the right. The States is a fair bit more right, and they're based in capitalism. Another view of things, just to kind of give it, the United States perspective. Um, see, you've got anarchy, the far side of the left spectrum. You've got fascism on the far side of the right spectrum. Nazi is just off the side of that. Communism is just off to the side of the left wing. All right, and just after conservatism, you got the monarchy, the idea of kings and queens. The idea of the czars in Europe, the ideas of the Queen of England. So they're kind of just that little bit more towards that's end of the spectrum. So let's take a look at communism, developed under Joseph Stalin, basically, around since the fall of the Russian Empire. In theory, it believes that the group or public ownership should benefit everyone. So the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few. Everyone has a freedom of choice. This is in theory. Everyone has an equal vision. There is no leader. Social services such as welfare, healthcare, and education should be, available for everybody. Um, there should not be any religion. That's the other big thing. They took a look and they said religion is the root of a lot of conflict. We get rid of religion, we get rid of all that problem. That was the idea in theory. In practice, it was a controlling leader uh, for anyone who was running Russia at the time. The state ultimately had full authority, and the greater good is all that matters, not just the individual. Fascism, again, the other side of the spectrum, that was more Benito Mussolini and Adolf Hitler. So they are the extreme capitalists. Someone believes the power of the individual and private ownership for personal profit. They don't like change. Again, they're very conservative, they're very right wing. They don't like government intervention. Same thing with the conservative agendas in the States and in Canada. Um, they're more into propaganda and pushing their ideas hard down your throat. Complete control by only one person. Remember, the communist idea was control of the many. Well, this is complete control by one person. And there should be traditional rules. Women belong in the home, men belong in the battlefield and in the workplace. It is survival of the fittest. It is every man for himself. So, why is it that Hitler becomes so popular? Why is it people are really starting to get behind him? Well, for the first time, it's really the first time that a public leader in Germany has said, it's not our fault. We didn't do anything wrong. We were pulled into this argument that started the war, just like everybody else was. But for some reason, everything got dumped on us. Not fair. We shouldn't take the blame anymore. He starts building programs. This is in the middle of the Depression. Germany was hit very, very hard by the Depression. And he starts doing things like building the Autobahn, which is public highways. He starts building the people's car, which you probably know as the Volkswagen Beetle. That is, the German car. He introduces mandatory conscription in 1935. Under Versailles, the German army was limited to 100,000 people. And Hitler says, yeah, we need people back to work. We are in the middle of a depression. The best way to do that is to, get the army up and running again, get the factories up and running again. And in order to do that, we need help. So he stopped the reparation payments. Remember that $30 billion that they had to pay off to the countries at the end of the war. And he took back the Saar coal fields. If you remember back to the end of the Treaty of Versailles conversation, we said that the Saar coal fields were going to be part of France for the next 20 years after World War I concluded. They've run it for about 15 years. And Germany says, we need the coal back. So we're going to take it back. The area of the Saar at this point, they they were enjoying themselves under their own, basically a democracy themselves. It was part of Germany, or sorry, it was part of England, it was part of France, and they liked it there. They liked being a part of that. They didn't want to get back into the craziness that was coming up in Germany. But Hitler, he wanted that public relations. So what he did was he started shipping German who were sympathetic to his cause, started shipping them into the Saar area, into this region. And then, as soon as they were established, he held a general election and asked the question, do the people of the Saar want to join back up to Germany? And overwhelmingly, these Germans who Hitler had planted said yes. So then he's able to go off to the public and to the world and say, see what they did to us at the end of the war. These people want to be a part of us. They want to be back with us. So, you guys really can't do anything. You were mean to us. We're taking it back over. And he really starts to rebuild the economy. The interest rates start falling, the jobs start raising, uh, people are able to spend money again. He is really the one who is leading the world out of the depression at this point. And it's kind of, just the way that he's doing it. But if you take a look, the picture down here, this is one of the ways he's doing it. And if you take a look at this image, that is a full military parade that is not in a time of war. He is not in battle with anybody. This is just a military parade just to show we're back and this is how we're going to run things. Okay. So here are the questions, whether you're in class or whether you're at home, you're going to be answering these questions. If you're in class, then you can hand it in at the folder at the front. If you are at home, then you are going to hand it into the Dropbox. So we're going to watch a quick video here. It's about 10 minutes. It's called Hitler's Germany. So what made Germany ready for a new leader? We've talked about a few things. We're going to watch it again in the video. What happened 1 week before the 1935 election, and what impact did that have on the election? What was the Enabling Act? What was the result? What was the night of the long knives? And did unemployment go up or down under Hitler? And what did the Nazi regime do to the Jewish people of Germany? For the last one, I want you to pay particular attention to the video where it talks about the school books and the propaganda that they're using. Okay? So if you're at home, this is where you're going to click onto the video. If you are in class, then we will be clicking on the video in about 30 seconds.